Hey, welcome into another episode of the Seahawkers Show with your host, Todd Fox. That's me. I will be diving into this year's predictions on the NFC West. I'll break down all four teams and give you who I think is going to be the champion of that division. But before I do, please, my fellow Seahawk fans and other NFL fans, if you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. And please tell me where I'm good and where I'm bad. I take criticism pretty good. I'm thick-skinned, so bring it on or tell me I'm great, and I'll much appreciate it. But with that being said, let's get to the 2019 division and what happened in that division. The Cardinals finished fourth. The Rams finished third. The Seahawks came literally inches from winning the division. But they were picked last year to go 4-12 by SI. They were also picked by some in the media, ESPN, to go 6-10, 7-9. Off year for Russell Wilson, off year for Carroll. There was all this doom and gloom last year, but we had great seasons from DK Metcalf. We had Chris Carson going off till he got hurt. The receiving core, the defense played a little bit better. Pass rush was terrible. But all things considered, this team was sitting at 10-2 in the final month of the season, and they were only able to win one out of the last four, which was kind of disappointing. They dropped a game, which I was at the Coliseum, the final Coliseum game. The Seahawks lost Rashard Penny in that game, and they really didn't come to play that Sunday night game. They lost to the Rams, and then they went on the road the next week to beat the Panthers. They went, they were 11-3, right there with the Niners, right there with the Packers, right there with the Saints, and trying to get a first-round bye and all that. And then what happened? They drop a game to the Cardinals at home, which unfortunately they've done routinely the last 3 years. And then they drop a game against the 49ers at home too, as well, as they controlled their own destiny but fell a yard short on both Seahawk-Niner games were epic last year. So unfortunately, they were only able to win on the road and not at home, but that cost them the division. So with that being said, they still had a fine year, 11-5, got a playoff win against the Eagles, and before going out against the Packers the following week. So with that being said, let's get to the 2020 breakdown, and I'm going to start with the Rams. I think the Rams are going to finish in fourth place. And why I say that is because the genius coach that he was, and everyone labeled him, and the Rams got off to this hot start, and 3 years ago they were in the Super Bowl, and they were, their defense came to play, but a lot of people said they shouldn't have been there, and I'm one of them. The Saints should have gotten there. It was a horrific call that cost the Saints. It would have been a better Super Bowl. I mean, the Rams defense showed up, but the Rams offense was exposed, and they did absolutely nothing in that Super Bowl. Patriots exposed them. Bill Belichick, another easy Super Bowl win, unfortunately. But with that being said, since that point, the Rams have screwed themselves. They have overpaid for Todd Gurley. They overpaid for Goff. All guys they had under control, but they gave in to their demands. Same thing now with Jalen Ramsey. They did the same thing with Aaron Donald. They've paid other guys, and what has happened since that Super Bowl team? They have no depth. Their linebacking crew is a mess. It's all young and youthful, and then they, besides Aaron Donald, not much on the pass rush. Corners aren't that good except Ramsey. Offensive line took a couple hits. Couple guys have left. They have no really legit running back behind Goff. They still got the wide receiver options with Kupp and Woods, I believe. And then you still got the tight end. His name's escaping me. Point is, the Rams are going to be dealt a bad hand this year. They're in salary cap purgatory, especially with the Ramsey signing. That's going to hurt them next year. But for this year, I predict the Rams to finish 6-10, 7-9 at best. I'll move on to the Arizona Cardinals, who has been a thorn in our side. I'm hoping that finally this year we can defeat them at home. We seem to beat them in Arizona, but we just can't beat them at home for whatever reason. I think it's 3 out of the last 4 years. I could be wrong on that, but I know they have. I was up there too when they played Arizona and they lost that game a couple years ago. So basically, I think with Kyler Murray, you get DeAndre Hopkins. And then you got Fitzgerald on there, but they really don't have much of a running game. The offensive line is still porous. At least now he'll have a legit weapon besides Fitzgerald to throw to. I think the Cardinals will score a lot more points this year. I think their offensive line is as poor as it is. It's gotten a little better. So, but defensively, they got a few names too. You got Chandler Jones at linebacker. You got Patrick Peterson at cornerback as usual. You got Budda Baker, who's a great free safety. But I'm not too convinced that this team is going to get it done. I mean, Jordan Phillips is their only pass rusher. The Cardinals kind of show up here and there. So that's why I'm thinking they're going to be 7-9, 8-8. They're going to improve, obviously. But here's where this division changes. And I think last year, a lot of people say, oh, the Niners were such on a roll. They forget the fact they beat us by a yard. They forget the fact that if we would have met up with them in the NFC Championship game, things would have been completely different. We know that team backwards and forwards. They know us backwards and forwards. The difference with this team compared to last year's is they're not going to sneak up on anybody, the 49ers. They are going to have the Super Bowl hangover. And if you don't believe in it, look back in history of all the teams that have lost Super Bowls, including the Seattle Seahawks, losing that one Super Bowl on the 1-yard line. That was the worst. I think that was one of the best coaching mishaps in NFL history, or worst, but also the best coaching the following season by Pete Carroll to get him back to the playoffs and to the second round, because any other team would have just killed itself, turned on the coaching staff. He kept them together, and they actually had a decent third year, but you could only wonder what the Seahawks would have been had they won the back-to-back Super Bowls and then come back for that third year. You don't know. I mean, that team was super talented, but they had so many issues, and Carroll somehow kept it together. Long story short, though, the Niners, unless you're the Patriots, are the only teams I've seen rebound after a Super Bowl loss and either get back to the title game or get back to an AFC Championship game. I don't see the Niners doing that. I've never been a fan of Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's overpaid. He's because of that offensive line. Look, the Niners did things smart. And just like the Rams built their empire, the Rams killed themselves with salary cap. The Niners did the right thing with paying players on the offensive line, drafting players on the offensive line with high draft picks, and the defensive line. You win in the trenches. And I think that's where Schneider has lost a little bit, is he kind of works around the trenches. And the Niners actually built from within, and I think that gave them that Super Bowl boost because all these guys are under control, and if you can control the line, you can control the game. And look, Jimmy Garoppolo, in my mind, is an average quarterback, but if you can hand off to 3 different running backs and get the same result because the offensive line is good, that takes a hell of a lot of pressure off of you. But look what happens, though, in the games that the Niners have lost when Garoppolo has started the previous 2 seasons is because the pass rushes finally got to him. And I think the Niners have lost a couple players up front. It's going to be a little different, and they've had to pay a few other players. They just had to pay Mozart, and they drafted another defensive end. I'm escaping me the name that they traded away, but you've got a solid defensive line for the Niners, probably one of the best in football. But you saw what happened in the Super Bowl. What happened in the Super Bowl, the Niners have got good linebackers who could tackle too. But if you get to that secondary position, you throw the ball down the field, their corners aren't good. Richard Sherman's not the Seattle Seahawks Richard Sherman. He got beat 3 times in the Super Bowl, once really bad by Sammy Watkins. Or was it it was Sammy Watkins. So my point being is, if you can give your quarterback an extra second, which I think is going to happen this year, look for that Niner defense to get beat a few more times than what they did. And you forget, too, that the Niners were in games much like the Seahawks where they played down to their opponents. I mean, they barely beat the Steelers early in the season without Big Ben. They barely beat, I think it was the Jets or someone. All I know is they had a couple games where they shouldn't have won because they were playing lousy, and the Seahawks had a couple of those too. So my point being is the Niners are going to take a step back. I think the Seahawks, where they had those games last year, they're going to pounce more because their offense is much better. And I think the Niners take a hit this year. I think they go back to about a 9-7, 10-6 team. I don't see them winning over 10 games. That's just me. I think that the Niners, people put bullseyes on whoever was in the Super Bowl or whoever won the Super Bowl. And the Niners aren't going to sneak up on teams like they did last year. And last year, you got to think about it. They didn't have to face the Saints. And, they played the Saints in New Orleans. I'll give them that win. That was a good win. But they didn't have to face them in the playoffs. They got knocked out by the Vikings. They got an easier road. They got a Vikings team that we all knew didn't stand a chance. And then the Packers team that was super, not overrated, but they overachieved. And if the Seahawks were there, as bad as they were with injuries down the stretch with Marshawn Lynch and everything else like that, they would have given a better fight than the Packers did, obviously, in my mind. And I think you guys know that too. So, and then we could have probably beat them too. I mean, the NFC was wide open last year to get to the Super Bowl. So I don't think it's going to be like that this year. I think teams are a lot stronger, and I think the Niners take a step back. Super Bowl hangovers are real. Trust me. Now let's get to the number 1 team. So I already picked the Rams. I already picked the Cardinals to be 3rd, and I got the Niners to be 2nd. So obviously that leaves our Seattle Seahawks. And why they're going to win the division? let's just go over the weakness first. And I've said this in the other video. The weakness is defensive line. Defensive line is going to be a problem for us going into, basically this season because, we got L.J. Collier starting, the rookie. We got Punafor, Jaron Reed, and Benson Mayoa. But our linebacking crew is the best in football. K.J. Wright, Bobby Wagner, and Bruce Irvin, who we could use as a defensive lineman or to rush and blitz in. So right there, we're solid. And then you look at the freaking secondary, and this is what excites me. Trey Flowers put up better numbers than Shaquem Griffin because he got thrown at a lot more. Shaquem Griffin was keeping people, shutting down, kind of like Sherman in a way. But then Trey Flowers is holding up his side on the, making plays on the other side of the ball. You got Quentin Dunbar backing him up or playing nickel or role reversals. Then you got Quandre Diggs at free safety, and as strong safety, Jamal Adams from the Jets. Dude, it doesn't get much better than that. That's a hell of a secondary, and I don't see. And then you got Blair and Lano Hill as backups. Dude, this is a great secondary, and if we can get any kind of pass rush, we're going to be making some picks. There's going to be some hard hits. I'm not going to say this is an LOB 2.0, but it's kind of feeling like it. So defensively, that's my only hole in this team. And offensively, though, offensive line has gotten stronger. I think Posick, another year, Britt's not there no more, but Posick, I think he's got something to prove. He's going to be the starting center. You got Damian Lewis, who's decent. Brendan Shell, who came over in free agency. You got Dwayne Brown and Upati. And I think that's a pretty decent offensive line. Now, they're not the best offensive line, but we know they could run block, and Wilson can buy the time. Wilson does Wilson things. So we're going to have we won't have our boy from San Diego State in there, Rashard Penny, who, for the first few weeks, but we'll have Chris Carson and we'll have Carlos Hyde, who's a very good backup. And then we'll have Travis Homer, who balled out last year. It was him and Lynch that kept the Seahawks rolling into the playoffs. And Homer's going to be, and that's the funny thing about week one. Week one, they're actually being called out. They're going to try to have, Schottenheimer's going to try to have 4 running backs get carries. So we're talking Carson, Hyde, Homer, and DJ Dallas. DJ Dallas is the newest Seahawk running back. He wants to get them all carries. So that's going to be kind of interesting because I don't know if they're going to push Carson to be that workhorse right off the bat. They might give him a couple weeks before they push him into that position. Then you look at their offense. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Philip Dorsett, Greg Olsen, Will Dissly. You got Josh Gordon, who will be back in a couple weeks. The offense looks really good. The receivers, I'm not worried about the offense at all. I'm worried about 2 positions on the Seahawks, and that is the kicking game and the field goal kicking because it's just been that bad for a while. And then you have, with Jason Myers, he didn't really have the Pro Bowl season he did with the Jets 2 years ago. So I'm hoping he can get back on track. And then you look at the defensive line. So that's our 2 biggest holes. Other than that, salary cap wise, the Seahawks are great. We're built to go for another 4 years under this and the way we have everything constituted. We got a lot of money to spend. And even with the trades and Schneider's done a great job keeping this team consistently winning. So I think this is the year we take that next step. We win that division and the sky's the limit. And I'm hoping that with the wins that we got our schedule is enough to where we can rack up some victories. And if these guys play and we stay healthy this year and don't have all those injuries like we did at the end of the year last year, the sky's the limit. Like I said, this team can win easily 12 games. So I'm picking them to go 12-4, Niners to be 9-7, 10-6, Cardinals to be 7-9, 8-8, the Rams to top out at 6-10. And that's why I think Seattle, is finally going to put everything together. And I think we're going to have a good, exciting season. And hopefully, like I said in the other video, I think fans will be back by November. We should be close to capacity by then. I think September is just going to be like, hey, there's no COVID outbreaks. COVID's been on the decrease. As long as that continues to happen, we had 20% at Kansas City. There's several teams that aren't going to have fans the first 2 weeks, Seattle being one of them, 3 weeks. So after the Viking game, it's going to be pivotal because, Seattle opens up again in Atlanta. They come home against New England, no fans. And then they have Dallas, no fans. I think they go to Miami, and then they have the Vikings. So you're talking mid-October, and then we're going to reevaluate the situation. Hopefully they're able to let in 50% by then or go week by week, because there's no way if the NFL has no fans, they lose $5 billion in revenue. There's no way come postseason or December, close to postseason, that we're not going to have capacity at all these stadiums. That's just my prediction too. So I'll put that out there. So again, like and subscribe to this video if you do, and let me know what I'm doing right or doing wrong. I love the criticism either way, or the comments. You guys are awesome. And go Hawks.